welcome Mark Seymour. Welcome back to the show. This doco really shows how hunters and collectors were discovered, really, by mushroom. Do you remember the first time you met?
Yeah, it was in his office at the top of Dundas Lane in Melbourne Park, and he was very animated, very excited. He's a very passionate man.
What was it about him that made you trust him with your career, basically, and drew you to him?
He wanted it more than anyone else.
Well, more than you.
Well, there were people circling the wagons, you know, like...
Yeah, but you were always sort of quite wary and protective of what you were doing.
Yeah, well, that's kind of part of the story, but really we jumped in pretty quickly.
With everyone, when I talk to artists that work with Michael Gudinski, when I talk to people in the arts world, often they're quite cynical about their agents and their producers, but no one is like that about Gudinski. What was it about him that was so special?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, we were, you know, of that post-punk era, and we were, you know, very suspicious of people who were offering us large sums of money. But when it actually came down to it, I think that what made Michael so special was that he was a genuine believer in, and it became apparent to me quite quickly, really. I mean, he saw us play. Yeah. You know, he went out and checked it out, and along with a little cohort of friends, and it became obvious to us that he was genuinely excited about what we were doing musically, and that was enough for me.
Yeah. For all that, though, you did have your fights with him. What was he like to fight with?
Do you know about them?
Do I? What's that?
What fights?
Well, you had never had any...
I've seen the movie, and I think I've seen it, which is great, by the way.
I thought it was really nice to him.
No, it's not... Well,
you could
no,
tell
but
there was an undercurrent. You could tell.
Passionate disagreement.
I like the way he sold the idea to me. He came on really strong.
Yeah, right.
You know.
Because he could sell anything to anyone if he believed in
that was the analogy I made with the guy at the back of the wagon.
Yeah, right.
Holding up the oil going, guys, I have the secret.
Yeah, that's right. And everyone queuing to buy it.
Correct.
So what did that mean when there were disagreements? That you just believed whatever he was saying?
Good question. To be honest, I think I was just very ambitious. Yeah. And I wanted to be successful. And I think more than anything, he knew how to tell the truth when it mattered. Right. You know, and, you know, we made mistakes. And, you know, there was fairly candid dialogue at certain points in the process, but I wanted it too, you know, so I was willing to come back, and, you know, we had a pretty terrible time in England in the early 80s, and came back to Australia, and, you know, professionally we were not doing very well at all. And, you know, he stepped up again. This is what you've got to do, guys. You've got to make a commercial record.
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
Which was a bit of it's like pulling teeth, really.
Well, but when it's done, how easy and apparent does it seem?
Well, we wouldn't have Throw Your Arms Around Me if we hadn't had that conversation.
Wow.
And without Gudinski, we probably wouldn't know Holy Grail, which is such an anthem, and its 30th year anniversary.
Oh, right.
Yeah, did you know? Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And it's such an anthem.
Yeah.
When you hear a crowd sing along with your songs, Holy Grail or Throw Your Arms Around Me, which, is the most goosebumpy for you?
Well, I think, you know, at the time that those songs came into being, I don't think any of us were really that across how big they could potentially get. I mean, they're just storytelling songs, you know, and I think he sensed there was something locked away in there early on that there was a tiger he could ride, you know, and he did a lot to convince me to stay in the game.
Were you the tiger? We just want to get this right. Who was riding who?
I don't think you meant to answer that question, Mark. Don't worry about it.
Ego, the Michael Gudinski story. It's in cinemas from August 31st. Would you please thank Mark Seymour?